Does this generation really have the hardest time buying a house? Let's talk about it on Today in Mortgages. Hey, what's up, Dreammakers? Welcome back to the show. We're talking about what's real, what's hype, and what you should actually be paying attention to out there in the world of mortgage and real estate news. It is Today in Mortgage. As always, Rich Jefferson is here with me to make us smart. How you doing, Rich?
Good morning, Michael.
Awesome. Hey, so we've been talking a little bit here and there, well, a lot really, about the idea that it is really hard to buy a house out there right now. But we're looking at some stuff today, and we're kind of looking back in the past, the long past, to see if that's really the case. And so we found two articles we're going to look at today. One is from Housing Wire, one is from Realtor.com. They're both citing each other on this, but the idea is that really, if you look back into the last time we had a high rate environment, people were feeling kind of the same stuff. So give me a breakdown of what we're looking at.
Again, we're going to talk, everything we talk about today is adjusted for inflation. So what it felt like back then versus what it feels like today with the inflation in both environments. So, we talk about the boomers, and my father would take offense to when we say way back. But for example, little things like college, there were other things that were less expensive that made the burden of housing easier to take on. For example, to own a home back then, it required a mortgage payment back in 1980 required 33% of the household median income. So that's a big chunk. Now, college and other things were less expensive. For example, my dad went to Cal State Fullerton. The tuition was $9,500 a year, and now it's $28,000 a year. That's living in California, so that's in-state tuition. So that's a big jump, compared to what the millennials and the Gen X are paying now. So, or when millennials were in college. So it was a big difference. But then millennials today were paying roughly 23% of their average household income for housing. So it was actually easier for them for housing. A little bit harder, not as quite as hard as like Gen X has it.
Yeah, so I think the stat that we kind of look at top line all the time is the average home price now versus then. Like back in the 80s, you would look at maybe like 3 to 4x your annual salary is what the cost of a purchase price would be. And now it's something like 6x what the average salary is. So median income in America around 72 household, average purchase price hovering in between 415. So that multiple is what has been kind of highlighted in the news as, hey, it's more unaffordable than it's ever been. But you're talking about percentage of income on that payment. And of course, that's the case because what was the interest rate back
18%.
in the 80s? 18%.
18% interest rate.
Yeah, I actually had a conversation with my dad about this recently. He's like, when we bought our first home, it was 16.5%. And like, we didn't know any better.
The interest rate definitely made the difference back then. But still, again, we're talking about the average income back then, household income being 33% for boomers. The mortgage payment represented 33%. But also, the boomers, on average, bought homes between ages 25 and 30. Today, it's much, much later. The problem we have that they didn't have back then is inventory. Back then, they were building homes everywhere. And one of the reasons housing prices are jumping is just because of the low inventory.
That's definitely true, Rich. It's an inventory problem. And one of the things you mentioned at the beginning of the show is that all the other factors that play into this, so cost of college, cost of living, all those things, I think that also plays a role in what we're looking at now is people are buying homes later. And that's because there's all these other things. Maybe it's just we have more access to lifestyle opportunities and travel and all those things that my generation really loved to spend money on, and where maybe other generations in the past made home buying more of a priority. And so maybe it's just we got to get our priorities straight, and we got to realize home buying it's always been a challenge, like, and something to strive for, right, Rich?
Yeah, for sure. You just need to weigh things. Back the boomers didn't have grocery delivery and
Hmm.
cable and streaming apps that you pay $10 a month for each. These are all things that they didn't have to deal with. All of the privilege and the accommodation that we have today costs us more money. Never mind college, which is clearly more expensive. Everything else is just a little bit more expensive, and the choices are so wide for us. So if we just decided to cut out a lot of that stuff, and that leaves more spending, more available spending for housing. So
And the things that are not just extra, but things that are just a part of our lives now, right? We have cell phone bills, we have internet bills, we have all these different things that didn't exist a generation ago. It's interesting to look at, but at the same time, buying a home has to become a priority, and you have to build your spending around that. And so that's something that we are talking about a lot here. It's interesting to look at. Rich, anything else that stuck out to you in these two articles?
just the comparison of we talked about it's so expensive to buy a home today, but yet it's still less percentage of the household income to own a home today than it was for the boomers. Kind of a surprise to me when I was researching these articles. Listen, I'd like to end on this. I mean, right now, there are so many home financing options available, like 10 times than there were back when the boomers were buying homes. Back then, they put 20% down. There was no such thing as mortgage insurance, to cover between 20, if you're putting less than 20% down. Now, you can buy homes with 3% down, veterans 0% down. And there's grant programs and housing bond programs. There's all kinds of opportunities today that they didn't have then. So while we think it's really hard and the prices are really high, there's many more options for us today.
Yeah, that's definitely true, Rich. And so, if you're a loan professional out there, just educating yourselves on what the realities are that we're looking at today, what the opportunities are for your customers and your borrowers, all those things are super important in today's marketplace. And we talk about those things a lot here. We get coaching from great people like Rich and others at our company. If you're interested in learning more about how you can be a part of the best network in mortgage to grow your business and be your best you, then click on the grow link below. We'll get you all the information that you need to be a part of the best network in mortgages. Hey, Rich, thanks so much for joining us today. Any final words on this?
That's it.
Awesome. Well, hey, thank you everybody out there for watching and listening. We appreciate you wherever you are, and we will see you next time on Today in Mortgages. Today in Mortgages is produced by Network Funding LP, which is an equal housing lender, NMLS 2297. The content of this program is meant to be a commentary on mortgage and real estate news, and any discussion of rates and or products should not be taken as an individual mortgage or home buying advice or pricing estimates. And any commentary on this show should not be considered a promise to make a loan. All applicants for a loan must qualify, and you should consult a professional regarding your individual loan scenarios for your financial situation. Visit our website at nflp.com/licenses for all state licensing and other legal information.